Ready? All right, good afternoon. First of all, just talk a little bit about the Saturday night. Huge win for our guys. I thought, Pitt, a lot of respect for that team and a really good football team, particularly defensively. One of the best defenses that we've played against. As I mentioned, 2020, a lot of those same guys played back then in 2020, and we didn't do anything offensively. And, it was still hard Saturday night, but we were able to, get a few enough big plays in there to score some points and to move the ball, you can go back and look at what Pitt did this year against Tennessee, the number one offense in the country, and basically Tennessee had 24 points at the end of regulation. We had 17. I mean, it's very comparable, I think. Ended up going to overtime against them, and really how they've played everybody. We got Wake Forest this week. I went back and watched the Wake Forest offense, which is an outstanding offense, against Pitt in that championship game last year. We had more yards than Wake Forest did against that same defense as well in that ACC championship game. And Sam, ended up throwing 4 picks in that championship game last year. It's a tough defense to go against. Really proud of our defense. I think our defense has a great defensive game plan they had going into that game. We had 2 sacks. It felt like we had more. You go back and watch it. We did pressure the quarterback quite often in that game, rattled him a lot. And I think that was huge for us. And then not giving up, the big plays that went for 6. I think we've been talking about that. That was another difference in that game. And their running back ended up having some yards, but I think we contained him for most of the day. I mean, there's 3 or 4 runs where he got out on us, but for most of the day, it was really hard, tough running for him. Yasir played an outstanding game. He's all over the field, interception, sacking quarterback, just playing his tail off. And he's had a really, really good year. Really proud of the way he's been playing, and getting after it. So I think, obviously this week, Wake Forest, number 10 team in the country, coming to our stadium. Huge game for us. It's a great opportunity for our team to continue to try to play really good football, coming off 2 wins in a row in ACC play, and now being able to host one of the best teams in our league, and a top 10 team in the country. I think, hopefully we'll have a great crowd. We need to, if you don't have tickets, go out and get tickets. This is college football is best right here, coming in with the 10th ranked team. I think about home field advantage. I think about, when we went to Syracuse, what kind of advantage Syracuse had playing in that environment. I think about when we got to go to Clemson, what kind of environment that's going to be. It's definite home field advantage. We need to have that home field advantage here. We need to have the people come out and yell and be loud and crazy, and because it affects teams, it affects offenses. There's no question about it. In a hostile environment, so we need to really, if you don't have plans or you're on the fence whether or not to go, really need you to come out to this game. I think a lot of respect for Wake Forest. Coach Clawson's done an unbelievable job there. They've had Sam Hartman, I feel like, now for 5 or 6 years. I think he's still got another year, incredibly. But he's a great player, runs that offense to a T. The slow read with the running back, and then, the RPOs off of that. They have outstanding receivers. The guys they have linked out there, they have they can catch the football. They make a lot of contested catches. Go back and watch the film. It's incredible, the contested catches they make. And they have faith in each other. I think they're real confident in that. And defensively, they got a new defense coordinator this year, doing a really good job on defense. Keeping guys out of the end zone. I think that's probably the biggest thing that I've seen on film this year for the Wake team. Teams that move the ball a little bit between the 20s. When you get down, it's a little bit harder to score. So I think that's certainly a game thing that we have to do game planning wise, is try to find ways to get in the end zone. Want to score touchdowns. And I think it's a great opportunity for us, and excited about playing these guys this week, and looking forward to it.
Scott, you mentioned the slow read and that. What's the key for a defense going against that?
Man, that's a good question. It's it's hard to contain it. You don't want to get out of your gaps. You get out of your gaps, he hands the ball off, and the running back finds the open hole. It's very unique. It's something you don't play against this. I don't know many teams at all in the country that are running this type of offense. And then Sam does such a great job of when to hand it, when to pull it. And then the receivers, it seems like they always have a good little route, whether it be a bender or, a vertical route. And it just keeps pressure on you. So I think, you got to stay in your gaps. You got to be able to continue. You got to pick and choose when to have pressure and to bring pressure. It's very difficult to defend. It's go back. I think the least amount of points they scored is 31 this year. A lot of times, I think every game but 2 over 40. So, you have to play tight coverage on the outside. The big thing in this is again not trying to give it the big play. I mean, those big plays can kill you. So, trying to make them drive the football again is something that we have to do.
Scott, I'm curious as to what some of the decision-making was that went into kind of going back and forth with Doman, especially to start that second half. With some of it injury-based, performance-based, what kind of went behind those decisions to kind of
I think Malik was still getting checked out at halftime. So when we came back out, Malik wasn't cleared yet, so Brock was going to go. They're still checking Malik out. And then really probably the second play – they came to me and said, all right, he's good to go. But we just, kept Brock out there, for a few more plays, finished it. And then that's when Malik came back out. And I think his helmet may have came off at some point. We put Brock in. He got hit early in the first half and got a little woozy, and Brock comes in. So it was really based on a little bit of both, but based on Malik's injury, and then Brock was in there, we just left him in, and then we'd put Malik back in. So again, we got a lot of confidence in both players. I thought they both made plays for us. A big time throw Brock had on the third down the sideline, and again, it'll take both of them, as we finish out this season.
Scott, maybe put a little humility behind, but the defensive improvement corresponds with when you said you were going to have a little more input into the defense. You feel like that has been a factor, and if so, how?
Yeah, I think we just looking at the whole overall situation there, and just trying to, as Ian, I've mentioned this the last few weeks, just here's some things that maybe I would try to attack that with in a certain look. So maybe don't do that. Let's give up this and not that. I think that's the big thing. If you go back the last 2 weeks, it's really those big plays. I mean, I think that's really what it comes down to. And we talked about this earlier. Our defense has been getting great pressure. I mean, number one in the conference in sacks. I mean, we're at 25 maybe right now. Right at the halfway point, close to the halfway. I mean, that's outstanding. It was just those over the top plays, and it really has just been that. Thinking about ways how we can keep a post player back there or a safety back, guys on top, make teams drive the ball. I think our guys have really done a really good job with that. You think about what Griffin's been able to do in the back end. He's got 2 picks in the last 2 games. Has been outstanding. He's been back there, and we haven't given him at that big pass play that kind of breaks your back. So I think our coach has done a really nice job the last 3 weeks on that side of the ball, and our players have bought into it. So, I just think, we've had a good plan as we've had that last 2 weeks.
Scott, Wake traditionally hadn't been a great football team, but Clawson has done more than most of the coaches they've had there. Just from your observation of watching what he's done, what's their identity, and how are they able to do what they're able to do?
Yeah, well, they've been running this offense now quite some time. I don't know how many years, but it's over 6 years, 7 years they've been doing this. And it's different. It's unique. It's hard to defend, and you got a week to prepare for it. I think that's really helped them. I think if you think about over the last 6-7 years, they've won a lot of games by scoring a lot of points. With that offense, they've had really good quarterback play. They've been fortunate to stay healthy at that position. With their guys. I remember Sam came and played in the game we won 62-59, played in that second half and played outstanding. So that was many years ago, and he's still doing it. He hadn't slowed down since then, really. And they've done a great job of getting some really good receivers in there. And people talk about, well, Wake doesn't have the kind of talent that some of these teams have. Well, they got a lot of talent. I mean, there's some really, really good football players on that side of the ball, particularly. And we saw, was it the running back that transferred out and went to Michigan State that killed it last year? I mean, he was kind of second team guy. You know, it just tells you the caliber of kind of players they've had. But with the talent they do have, the scheme they have on offense, they give themselves a chance to win a lot of games. The other thing that they've done, and it's Coach Clawson's teams, they don't beat themselves. You know, they don't turn the football over. I think they're number one in the conference in lack of penalties. I don't get penalized, maybe 30 yards a game. I remember 2 years ago when they came out here, we ended up beating them. They were, I think, number 1 or 2 in the country in turnovers. You know, and we turned them over that day, I think, two times. So that's kind of how they've won these games, and that's kind of a mark of a Clawson team. I think, you know, don't beat yourselves. We're going to go out and we're going to go score a lot of points. And you know, make teams have to really play great football in order to beat us. And you know, see what they did to Clemson this year. Went to double overtime. Clemson made some outstanding plays and in the ends contested catches and ended up winning that game. So, you know, just hats off to what they've been able to do there the last few years, and they seem to have it rolling.
In your estimation, Scott, is Hartman the best quarterback in the league? And you touched on it a little bit, but what makes him so good? Is it his intelligence, arm, is able to turn a bad play into a good play?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of that. I think he's got to be right now, you know, playing the best anybody in our conference. I think a lot. I think their scheme helps. I think what they do, and he fully understands great control of what they're trying to do offensively. Again, they have really good wideouts who a lot of times get isolated one-on-one, and they're long. He's very accurate with his passes. He gives them a chance to make the plays. Go back and watch the film. You know, a guy can be right on his hip. He's going to throw it out in front. The guy's going to be able to make the play. He's tough. He's tough. He's not that big. You know, he's not that big of a player. But I remember last year when we were playing him, we got him tackled. He's falling down. He's almost on the ground, and he makes the throw, and he gets a first down. I mean, it's just he's a big-time competitor, great accuracy, and a full command of their offense. And I think that's what makes him so good. And, you know, and he doesn't make many mistakes.
The other thing is Evans' availability, and will you continue to kind of try to rotate Dolman and Malik because you don't want to get him banged up where he's not fresh in the fourth quarter? Just observation.
Yeah, I think, you know, Evans is still listed as day-to-day. Hopefully he'll, you know, continue to heal up and get better this week. We'll see where that's at. We'll have a better idea probably middle of the week. You know, I think, as I mentioned earlier, I think we're certainly going to need both guys throughout the rest of this season. We've talked about this schedule that we have remaining, and we got a lot of tough teams we have to play. And what we do offensively, you know, sometimes you're going to get little dings here and there, quarterback-wise, and so you're going to need both guys. You know, so we'll see how it goes. I mean, I anticipate both guys probably playing, you know, as we throughout the season. Last week they both did a great job in practice of getting ready to play mentally, and that's the biggest key. And I think that's what will happen again this week.
Scott, he asked you about Evans. What about Ford? Then I've got something else.
Yeah, Ford's gotten a lot better. Yeah, he's we'll anticipate he's going to be ready to go and play this week. Didn't do much Sunday, just getting treatment Sunday and Monday. Today we'll do a little bit. I think probably as the week goes on, going to do more and more. But he'll be ready to go. He'll be able to play. And I think, you know, injury-wise, I'm trying to think of anybody else that probably Evans will be a guy. I would anticipate Evans being ready to go as well. But I think we'll know a little bit more by the end of the week.
You talked a lot about.
Oh, yeah, Trevor Reed's the other one that missed the game at left tackle. He should be back. He'll practice again today. Luke Kandra is one that will be out. You know, Luke missed, I think, whenever he went out, second half maybe, but he'll be out for probably a couple of weeks with the ankle sprain, and so you know we'll be without him for a couple of weeks.
What about the offense? Are you pleased with it at this point, or how do you feel? You've talked a lot about the defense.
You know, we've been battling on offense, I'll tell you that. We've had a lot of injuries on that side of the ball. You think about the offensive line, guys that have been in and out of the lineup, running back in and out of the lineup, Malik in and out of the lineup, wide receivers in and out of the lineup. I mean, we've just been battling. I don't know how else to describe it. You know, the thing we haven't been able to do, and I've been mentioning this, is just the big plays that we used to have, and we haven't had that much. And I think a lot of it has to do with injuries and guys in and out of the lineup. You know, but I think you know, I'm. You know, we'd love to be a lot better, but what we've had available, you know, certainly It's been okay. I mean, but it's not been, the standard what you'd love to have. But we're trying to get better, and but whoever we got available, we'll go out there and try to get a great game plan with those guys, and hopefully they can go make plays.
Scott, kind of running back wise, like you mentioned, obviously having injuries there. You get Jalen back, but then Tyon goes out. Trevion starts. Jawar started at one point.
Yeah.
How does, I guess, kind of that lack of continuity, affect things? Do you feel like it makes the guys better because they get those opportunities? And then just an update on Amari.
Yeah, it's tough, because you got guys in and out of the lineup. You got, and really I just go out there and start who's practicing today. I mean, like who's available, and we'll let these guys get reps today. And then as we get to game day, all right, who's available? All right, here's kind of how the rotation will go. I think all those guys understand that. They all obviously are trying to get out there and be available and go through practice and be ready for the game. The tough part is if you miss practice time, the tough part is exactly knowing what to do on game day, with all the different looks we're seeing, the different pressures and different things. And so I feel like you have to get a little bit of playing time throughout the week in order to play on game day, particularly at that position. So we'll see how it works out, but I do have confidence. Whoever's available out of those guys, I have confidence in those guys. We talked about it in the offseason. That was one of the deepest rooms we had was in running back room. So, I think I have confidence in whoever's available. And, Amari's, practicing this week. He'll be available this week.
Scott, with Kandra out, he's been playing a lot of snaps. Do you still try to rotate? You'll have Trevor back. Will you still try to rotate? Will it be somebody else maybe thrown in there?
Yeah, I mean, I think Gonzalez is a guy that can play a lot of positions. I think certainly plays tackle for us, but also can play guard. Boone had to step up and play a lot of snaps in the second half last game. So we'll see how it goes. But it's a loss. I mean, he was such a mainstay and big guy in the inside. I hate it for him, but he'll be back hopefully in a few weeks. But again, Trevor's back, so that gives us another body. Basically the same kind of number of bodies we had this past week.
And a question for defensively, MJ seems like he's really made a big difference in 2 weeks. Was there something he wasn't ready or doing to get out there? And have you seen that on film that he's made that big of a difference?
Yeah, I mean, I think he was just continuing to get better and better. The one thing about him is that, man, he practices really, really hard. A great practice player, so he goes hard. He's getting better and better and better. Just really understanding the defense, really. And he's kind of like one of them guys, when he got an opportunity, he made the most of it. And we tell those guys all the time, when you do get your chance, you better be ready, or it'll pass you by. But he was ready. And to your point, I think the last 2 weeks has made some great plays for us. He really is flying around. He's missed a couple tackles here and there, but it's not lack of effort. I love the way he's pulling his trigger. And then we mentioned earlier, 2 big interceptions are huge interceptions for us. And he's been able to make those kind of plays. And he plays with a lot of energy, and I think our guys feed off of that.
Scott, how much of a shot of confidence did that Pitt win give you, knowing that you were able to break the trend of inconsistencies when it comes to wins and losses, and finally be able to rally in the fourth quarter while trailing?
Yeah, it was big. It was a huge fourth quarter for us to be able to finish the game like that. We've been there many times, and to finally be able to finish was outstanding. We played complementary football. And that's the one thing we've kind of struggled with is that complementary football. We got to stop on defense, and then all of a sudden the offense goes down, and we get 3 points, and then it makes it a 7-point, which obviously feel a little bit better, and then we go down and we stop them again, and then with the sack fumble, and now you get a touchdown. Now we're up 14, and now I'm feeling really good, and so it was great complementary football in that game against a really good football team, and we found a way to win it. And I think that's huge, and that's great confidence for our team. And I think we certainly it's something that we got to build off of, because a lot of these games, it comes down to the fourth quarter, it comes down to the end, and you have to be able to make those plays. So that it showed that we don't have quit in this team, and this team's going to continue to fight. We've done that, and now we found a way to win, which is obviously awesome.
Scott, you may or may not be able to answer this question, but guys like Marshawn, I believe when you got here, he was a walk-on, and now he started for 3 years. How does that happen? That just doesn't seem.
Yeah.
Guy's not recruited,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden he's a 3-year starter.
Yeah.
At a Power 5 school.
Yeah, it doesn't happen too often. You're right. I think sometimes guys get overlooked. I think he was a guy, maybe he's kind of a tweener. Is he a wide out? Is he a tight end? What is he? Where does he kind of fit? And when we came in here, I just saw a good athlete. you know, and I was like, man, let's try to find a way to put him on the field somewhere. And it just happened to be at the Y, H-back position for us. And he's excelled at that, and he's had a great career, you know, being able to do that. And then, you know, we've taken a lot of walk-ons in the past. I believe in that. I mean, I believe in guys that I don't care if you're a walk-on or a five-star. To me, if you can come out and play and help our team, then we're going to find a way to play you. And, you know, I think about this weekend, you know, when Marshawn went out. Listen, he was a walk-on, played at Kentucky Days High School here in Louisville, and catches the game-winning touchdown. And, you know, didn't hesitate to call that play for him. He works his butt off, and he has for the last few years here. It just happened to do it under the lights. And, you know, just really proud of those guys. I think the one thing you can't measure is heart. I think, you know, and that's the one thing I think if we all could measure, find a way to measure that, you know, you never have to worry about work in your life because, you know, but you can't. Like you can't. You don't know what's right here. You know, I've seen so many talented guys that are highly rated players that get passed up by a guy maybe that wasn't even hardly recruited because they didn't have that ingredient that you need, and that's that grit and that toughness and the heart factor to continue to work every single day. Those guys that have a chip on their shoulder that work like that end up very, very successful on the football field but also off the field, and those guys are great examples of it. All right. Thanks, guys.
Y'all doing?
Thanks. You kind of take us through what, I mean, it looks like Wake Forest is much better defensively this year than what they have been. What are they doing maybe different, and what kind of do you see from their defense?
Yeah, Jody, I think, you know, defensively, Coach Lambert, first year DC there, has done a really nice job with their defense. I think they're playing hard. They're playing fast. Playing a little more physical than maybe what you've seen in previous years. But the biggest thing that he's changed is they're doing a little bit more on defense, just from a scheme-wise. So they're changing it up on you. You don't know what they're going to be in each and every play, and so they're keeping you on your toes, you know, from a schematic standpoint. But he's got those guys playing at a really high level, and they run to the football.
Coach Satterfield kind of talked about this a minute ago. The challenge of the lack of offensive continuity, offensive line, running backs, even quarterbacks, wide receivers. You're kind of piecing together different lineups, it seems, every week. How much has that been a factor in the offense maybe not being as smooth as you'd like it to be?
Yeah, let me say this. I'm really proud of our offensive unit as a whole. We've had a ton of injuries, and every team in the country could say that at this point in the season. We're not the only ones that battling injuries or guys, you know, not being in and out of the lineup. But I think our guys, no matter if it's been offensive line who's been out, our starting quarterback's been out, you know, no matter who's been in or out of the lineup, we found ways to move the football. We found ways to score points. And in this past game, beat a really good defense. You know, Pitt is really good defensively. You know, a really good team. And we found a way to win in the fourth quarter instead of finding a way not to win or to lose the game. And so I think that's encouragement. And those are things that we can take and, you know, use as we move forward, you know, as positive momentum. Now we've got some confidence. We have, you know, come back from a fourth quarter deficit. We played well enough to win in the fourth quarter. And I thought it was a really gritty win. So I think, you know, yeah, it's hard sometimes to find continuity, but I think guys have done a nice job stepping up and having that next man up mentality.
At this point, where would you like to see the offense improve for the rest of the season?
Well, I mean, I'll be honest with you. You know, as a competitor, we've got to improve in all three phases. You know, what I mean is run game, pass game, and from a protection standpoint. I know pass game wise, we've got to continue to elevate, you know, our game, you know, if we want to win ball games down the stretch against some really good football teams, you know, and I think, you know, we've done a nice job running the football. We have to be more consistent at running the football, and some of our situational run game has to be better, but overall, you know, we have to improve in all areas if we want to beat some of these good teams down the stretch, and a really good Wake Forest team who's a top 10 team coming in here to our stadium this weekend.
Lance, I guess Travion got the start this past week where Jawar had started before for Tyan. What, I guess, did you see from Travion that kind of gave you guys that confidence to start him first, and how do you just kind of see him really taking those steps now this season?
Yeah, really proud of Trey. His maturation as a person and a player, and his development. I think that he has showed so much signs of growth this year, just from a physical and mental toughness standpoint, and understanding the offense standpoint, willingness to do whatever he's been asked to do or accept whatever role he's been put in. And I think that that's been really the mantra of that room. We've had different guys step up in different roles at different times, and they've all, they cheer for each other, they encourage each other, and in that room, it's just like I talked about with the whole offense. It's next man up mentality, and they've taken turns making plays, and so Trey is just one piece in that room that has done a nice job. But I've been really proud of him and his growth.
Lance, you and Scott both have talked about getting more out of the passing game, but the other night you had 2 catches that were pretty amazing with Tyler's. Can you speak to that catch and his concentration? And then Chris had one, I think, in the first half. Mm-hmm. It seems like he's getting better and better.
Yeah, I thought both of those guys, from a receiver unit, and a pass game unit, those guys stepped up and made some really huge critical plays in that game. Chris Bell made, one of the first big plays in his young career as a true freshman. He stepped up and made a big play down the sideline in the first half. There was a big, momentum changer there. And then, Tyler Hudson's, big catch on the sideline. That is a huge critical play at a critical point in that game. We're third down. Brock puts the ball up and just gives us an opportunity, and he makes an acrobatic catch on the sideline, great concentration, gets his feet inbounds. They had to go to replay to, basically, confirm the call or change the call and turn it into a catch. But I thought that was huge for us in that point in the game. And so some critical plays at some critical moments. So that part is exciting. That part is improvement. We just have to show consistency in the pass game. But I thought that those guys I think we're taking the right steps, Jody, in the pass game. We just have to see more consistency from all phases and throughout the game.
You've had some really good play from Luke and Michael up front. Mm-hmm. When you get an injury, Scott said, Trevor's going to be back, but when you get an injury like Luke, how much does the rotation that you guys have had, seems like it's been pretty good to give them a break. How does that affect maybe the game?
Yeah, Luke has played really well for us. I think our O-line, I mentioned this last week, has really started to hit their stride and play really consistently, and we've been able to rotate guys in. That's one area that we've had some depth. We knew that going in. Luke being out obviously hurts, but getting Trevor back now allows us to move Gonzalez around. Gonzalez has played multiple positions for us. He's played on the left side. He's played on the right side. He's played outside at tackle. He's played inside at guard, and so he gives us some freedom and flexibility to move him around. And so we really don't, the standard is the standard. We expect the production and them to continue to play at a high level no matter who's in there. Obviously, we hate the loss of Luke, and that will affect us, but we anticipate the guys that we continue to play with to play at a high level, and that's what they've been doing each and every week these last several weeks.
Lance, even though Cunningham did have a couple touchdown passes in that game, there were a couple moments in that game and at times throughout the season where Cunningham's accuracy has been kind of waning at times, has a propensity to overthrow or underthrow a receiver. As someone who is a play caller or has significant input in the play calling, does that affect potentially what you want to call in given situations, knowing that sometimes Cunningham's accuracy isn't there?
Yeah, I think Malik has done an excellent job making plays when we've needed him to make plays. With his accuracy, with his legs, on third downs in the red zone. We can always be better, especially in those critical situations, whether it's third down or red zone. But as I've stated before, it's not just on Malik, it's on all of us. At times he's gotten pressure in the pocket. We've got to do better with our pass protection up front, At times we have to be where we're supposed to be from a receiver standpoint. It's not just on Malik. It goes on his stat sheet when it goes to, completions or incompletions, but it's not just up to him. I always say this, when the passing game is so critical when it comes to timing and everybody being on the same page, And so I think that's, what we have to continue to work at. And from a coaching staff, we have to continue to do is make sure that everybody's on the same page, make sure that we're putting guys in position where they are using their strengths to make plays and get open for him. And I think as long as we continue to do that, which we've done a nice job the last several weeks of trying to do that schematically and from a X's and O's standpoint, I think it helps our offense from a totality standpoint. Thanks, guys.
How y'all doing? Good.
You've gotten a lot of pressure on the quarterback recently. How
Mm-hmm.
much of that has been what you might be doing schematically as opposed to just guys are finally playing the way you think they ought to play?
I think it's a little both. We've gotten there some with some three-man rush. Got some sacks that way as well and got some pressure that way. But some is schematics, but some is just, four-man rush guys that's getting there, and playing, the game how it's supposed to be played. And I commend our coaches up front, Coach Ivy and Coach Greg and even Coach D-Nick with some of those guys that's bringing pressure from the second level as well of getting those guys going. And but it's a little bit of both. I think it's been great, so hopefully we can keep that up this week because we need it.
Brian, what is the key with that slow read at the mesh point and with Sam back there at quarterback, as good as he is? What is the key against this offense?
Well, you have to be where you're supposed to be, and if you're not, he's going to make you pay. Whether that's up front, with gap integrity. If guys aren't in his gap and he hands it off and boom, he has a crease and now it goes for a little while. If your safeties are too tight, he's gonna ride it, and he's gonna throw your RPOs off of it. So we have to do a great job of being where we are, where we need to be, and be sound in our gaps and making sure we where we need to be within that regard, as opposed to me giving you the game plan within that regard too. So I know you were.
Brian, with the slow read again, it's always important to win the line of scrimmage, but is it even more important this week because if you don't, he'll take all day?
Absolutely. It is very important. Each and every game you have to win a line of scrimmage, and with the slow ride and decide, they are masters of it. I mean, it's like a well-oiled machine. It really is. And, Hartman's been in this system for a long time. And, I think he's done a tremendous job of running this offense to a T. I mean, he knows, when he's made a mistake, he's like, God dog it. I know I should have went here. And he's like a coach on the football field. So we have to win the line of scrimmage, and we have to do an excellent job in the secondary of covering our guys and be where we need to be. Because if not, he's like a chef, man. He can dice you up really, really quickly.
Brian, MJ Griffin's has really excelled the last couple of weeks. And it's kind of coincided with fewer big plays. How much has he made an impact on that? And just talk about his overall play the last couple of weeks.
He's done a great job. He's come in and worked, had an injury early on, and just came back and worked. And so I applaud him for, his patience, and understanding that he had a guy that was in front of him at the time that's played a lot of football for us and over his career as well. But he came in and continued to work. And when his number's been called, he's came in and played tremendous for us. He's a smart kid that loves the game, always doing extra work, always doing extra studying. And so hopefully we can continue that trend this weekend, with him making more big plays, because that helps our defense out and helps us as a team, when we're making plays in the secondary and not giving up big plays. When we don't give up big plays, it's hard for teams to score against us, a good bit of the time, and it's exciting to see the guys making plays and not giving up big plays.
Brian, speaking of big plays, over the last couple games, it seems you guys have sort of limited the amount of back-breaking big plays you guys have given up. What do you think, in terms of giving those up, kind of clicked for you guys?
Well, I think guys just paying attention to detail. Just understanding down and distance situations. When it's a throwaway down. When it's passing situations or splits or formations. And things of that nature. The guys are playing at a high level right now, being able to pay attention to detail, and so it's great to see. They're excited, man, and hopefully we can keep that trend going on. Not giving up the big play, but paying attention to detail, and I'm doing a little bit of it as well. Being able to help those guys, put them in some situations to help them, be a little bit more successful as well.
Do you
Brian,
see-
you talked about the secondary a little bit. Obviously, you guys have played some really good receivers with Johnny Wilson, Zay. Now coming in with a guy like A.T. Perry, how much of a test will this be for that secondary and some of those guys like MJ, Keitra, all those?
It's huge. It's huge. This is probably one of the best overall receiving core that we faced all season. And, with AT and, 11 and 80 and 13 and 2, they got some guys. And all those guys can run. They are great in their scheme. They know inside leverage, outside leverage, what routes to run. And quarterback knows as well. It's all about timing. I think I heard Coach Lance talking about that earlier. But it's going to be a huge test for us this week, and I think our guys will be up for the challenge. We have to do a great job of studying film and not guessing, and just playing what we see and being where we need to be. And if we do that, I think our guys will be able to make some plays this weekend.
Have you seen Abdullah really raise his level of play in the last couple of weeks? And if so, why do you think that's happening?
I think he has. We talked, after early this season, and I think he was pressing a little bit and trying to make the play as opposed to just doing his job and just relaxing and playing. And so I think that's what he's doing now. He's just relaxing, having fun, and playing the game. And now you're seeing him make a ton of plays. He's all over the field. It's like, man, how many 22s are actually on the field? It's only one, but it looks like it's about 4 or 5. But no, he's playing his butt off, man. I'm excited for him. But he's had an excellent offseason, and that showed, early on from his leadership standpoint. That's why he's one of the captains, and he's playing well. So hopefully he can continue that throughout this week and have a lot more plays this weekend.
Brian, when you were in your normal package, it seemed like Ben Perry made a lot of plays and was physical the other night. And then when you went to the nickel at the end, I think Trey Franklin had a big play. You're getting it from a number of different guys. Can you talk about Ben, his play, and then the guys that are making plays?
Ben stepped up this past weekend, and we challenged Ben because we knew Pitt was going to run the football, and we needed him to be a little bit more physical, setting edges, as well as making tackles on a really good back, which I think is one of the best backs in the country. But he was in tune all week, and he kept telling me, Coach, I'm going to set the edge. Just watch me. I'm going to set the edge, in the game. And he did that. And so I'm just so proud of him. He's grown up so much, since he's gotten here. And it's exciting to see a player like that mature and, have a lot of success. And I attribute that to him just, realizing, hey, it's a team game. And, I need to do my part. And that's what he's doing now, and it's exciting to see. Good. Appreciate you guys.